prior to that game, I wouldn't have said that Notre Dame could score 48 points if you locked them in Notre Dame Stadium overnight by themselves.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with us today on this Throwdown Thursday edition, our favorite administrator, Robert Abney. Robert, how are you, sir?
Living the dream as always, man. Beautiful fall weekend. Let's hit it.
All right, so in segment one, we're going to go around the territories, talk about all things happening in college football. Segment two, there's some administrative items, and somebody's taking a trip to Washington, D.C. to visit Congress. And in segment three, we will talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. I still can't get over the hump. But first, ACC. Florida State's on fire. They've got a clear path to the CFP if they run the table. So go get them, Seminoles. They've got Duke, Miami, and Florida as their biggest test. And if they win out, they're in because they would have beaten two SEC teams and they would have run the table in the ACC. Robert, what are you thinking about Florida State? Can they do it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is totally doable. They don't play North Carolina, right?
No, just Duke, Miami, and Florida are their biggest tests. They got some other games, but man, I think they got a shot, man. I think they got a shot.
They definitely have a shot. I mean, Duke is very good. Duke did,
but their quarterback is hurt, and that's not going to help them.
That is not going to help them at all. Duke definitely does not have a chance against Florida State without him. So, I can see Florida State running the table. Saw Louisville got beat yesterday also.
Yeah, they lost that trap game.
So some of these undefeated teams, starting to fall by the wayside a little bit.
Well, UNC passed its Miami test. So their biggest tests left are Duke and Clemson in Death Valley. And Clemson's just kind of hanging around now, man, and they're playing spoiler. Can you imagine that? But the current top teams are FSU and UNC, and if that ends up as the ACC championship, that ain't bad, man. That ain't bad. All right, moving to the American. Tulane is 5-1, so we can talk about them again. Everybody else is just trying to get bowl eligibility, but Tulane, you've got the American, and you'll have a shot if you can win out at getting to the Cotton Bowl.
Yep.
Big 12. Texas and Oklahoma were off this week. And nobody else is national good. They're good for the little bowl game that they're going to lose out on or mess up somebody's, bowl bracket. But nothing else to talk about since Texas Oklahoma didn't play.
Kansas got beat.
Yeah. As you see, nobody else is national good. So
Yep.
Let's move on to the Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Now, I was going to be the death of me because can somebody just beat them so I could be done with them? But that didn't happen. I did take the under, though. We'll talk about it in segment 3. Rutgers passed a gut check while Maryland did not. And by the way, Maryland fans, get off Lox's case. You would be irrelevant without him. So there's a certain level Maryland's going to get to. And then that's going to be about it. And with these other teams coming in, what do you want, man? Penn State travels to Ohio State Saturday in an elimination matchup. And James Franklin has said Penn State is good, not great. And for them to be great, they got to win against Michigan and Ohio State. So any thoughts on the Big Ten, sir?
I agree with James Franklin's sentiment 100%. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and they have not yet done that. And now's your chance, big fella. Go get it.
I'm like ready for that game right now. All right, in the HBCU world, no major wins this week for the HBCUs. And hey, rhetorical question. Does the SWAC miss Dion? Because not a lot of coverage this year. So be careful what you wish for because you might get it. He's gone, and so are the cameras. Okay. Group of 5, Conference USA, Liberty is 6-0. That's about it, Rob. But Liberty's still
Yeah.
6-0, and they're if they run the table, they're going to have a conversation about the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
Maction, the MAC. It's here every Tuesday. Toledo and Miami of Ohio are both 6-1, and they play each other Saturday on ESPNU. That is the game of the year in the MAC. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be a good one, sir.
Well,
And
and the only other question about Maction is how crappy the weather's going to be, because you want to talk about games with terrible weather. Those Tuesday night Maction games, it's raining,
rain sideways.
snowing sideways. It's just I had some guys I work with were at they went to Ball State this past weekend, and Ball State is terrible. And the weather, they're there and they've got plastic ponchos over their parkas, and I'm like, that doesn't look like any fun at all. Why would I do that?
Not at all. All right. Mountain West Conference. Air Force passed its Wyoming test, and they are 6-0. Air Force has a shot and a clear path to being that Group of 5 representative in the Cotton Bowl. Fresno State and UNLV are both 6-1. It's clearing up. It's clearing up. So we'll be paying attention to that. The Sun Belt, James Madison is 6-0, and they're playing well, making me a couple of side bucks. They play Marshall on Thursday night, ESPN. So we got to keep an eye on JMU, Marshall, Troy, and Texas State in terms of the Sun Belt. And I keep telling folks they're a fun conference to watch. They are a fun conference to watch. Robert, I'm going to pause you on the independents. Notre Dame, quite frankly, was dominant. And where was this team at against Louisville? Because they played Ohio State well, laid an egg against Louisville. So the Ohio State loss was an acceptable loss. The Louisville loss was a bad one, but boy, did they come back in grand fashion and beat up USC. And the big test that they have left, Clemson. Okay, but we'll see what happens. Any thoughts on Notre Dame?
Well, obviously USC's defense is a fraud, because prior to that game, I wouldn't have said that Notre Dame could score 48 points if you locked them in Notre Dame Stadium overnight by themselves. But clearly that is not the case. And clearly USC, Lincoln Riley he's an offensive genius. They can score points. Well, they played a pretty good defense that shut them down, and they had no response. So if you're going to go to the Big Ten and be successful, you better figure out how to go to Iowa and win a game that's 16-13. You better be able to figure that out. And clearly they're not there yet.
No, but congrats to Notre Dame. I have them on a season-long bet, so I'll take the win. But I was surprised, because you'll find out in segment 3. Pac-12. I will always take advantage of this. Purple rain, purple rain. Only want to see you laughing in the purple rain. Well done, Washington. I salute you. Just like Harley raced before Starrcade 83 with Ric Flair and the bounty matches, I wanted to all get out, and Washington did the honors. So congratulations to Washington. They have a shot and a clear pathway to the CFP. USC, as we've just mentioned, got taken out back and handled like scandal. Oregon State and Utah keep hanging around. And wouldn't it be funny if Oregon State made it? That would be chuckles. Okay. Yeah. Arizona finally woke up. Now, Robert, I'm going to pause on this one. Colorado lost a winnable game. It will be a fight to win 6 games and be bowl eligible. And we have said that to our audience all year. We told you they're not that good. And Dion has already won, folks. So your hate means Nothing, because they're one deep. So on social media last night, and after the game, I'm starting to hear things like this, Robert. Well, he doesn't, uphold the Colorado traditions like running out with Ralphie, the Buffalo, and blah blah blah. Stop it. Just stop it. Next year, when you're in the Big 12, you'll win 6 to 8 games, and all of this will be a memory. And then you hope to keep him year 3. That's what you hope it. So you can go back to irrelevancy if you want, or you can shut up and enjoy the ride. Robert,
Yep.
any thoughts about Colorado losing and us telling fans that they're not very good? So slow down.
Well, and I think, I mean, what you said is absolutely correct. They're one deep. They do they have talent? They absolutely have talent. They absolutely have Pac-12, Big 12 talent. They don't have enough of it. And you start getting guys banged up in the middle of the year. Shedeur Sanders maybe doesn't have his best game, makes some bad decisions. Their margin for error is very small. And when your margin for error is very small, this is going to happen. You're going to lose games you shouldn't
You
lose.
should win. And
Should they
yes,
lose?
you can't give up a 28-point lead. You coached a horrible second half, run the ball, eat up the clock, blah, blah, blah. But Dion's been a
Yeah.
head coach for 3 years, and young coaches make those type of mistakes.
Well, and coaches think, and I was a coach for a while. Okay, I'm an official now, but I will stand on the sidelines I will stand in my position on the field at games, on the court at games, and I will spend a lot of time thinking to myself, what in the world are they doing? Because sometimes coaches think too much.
Mm-hmm.
Run the ball up the middle. Just run the ball up the middle. Let the clock run. Or conversely, you get to the 7-yard line and it's 4th down. Take 3 points.
Take 3.
Take 3.
It's okay.
It's okay. And I get the whole, we should be able to get 3 yards. We should be able to get a yard. Okay. But when you're up with 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes left in the game, and it's 4th down at the 50-yard line,
Punt.
punt the ball. Punt the ball. Make them go 80 instead of 50. I mean, just coaches get in their own heads, man. They think way too much, and it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Make things as difficult as possible for your opponent.
Not yourself, your opponent.
Put points on the board. Make them go a long way to score without screwing up.
Yes.
I don't understand.
I'm boring, man. Boring wins more than it loses.
That's why I'm wearing stripes and blowing whistles instead of standing on the sidelines, man.
All right. Yes. All right, SEC. We're going to wrap up. Georgia was kind to Vanderbilt, but Bowers was hurt, man, and we can't have that kid hurt. Because now you're vulnerable because he'll get you out of some stuff.
Yep.
Alabama's good. It's just not as good as before.
Yep.
But their bad is better than you. They're like Randy Orton to me right now. Randy's not Randy from 2009, but I'm not trying to mess with him.
No.
So good win for Tennessee. Robert, talk to me about what's going on in Texas A&M. Tell me what the scuttlebutt is at the local watering hole.
Well, the Aggie fans under the best of circumstances are, in my opinion, deeply unrealistic. I will say that they are not enamored of Jimbo Fisher.
How did he get the deal in the first place? What did he do for them to say, that's the guy I want to pay that amount of money
to? He won a national championship at Florida State, and he said he was interested. And it's interesting because College Station is a little college town, and it's not like close to Houston. It's like 2 hours. I think it's like an hour and a half from Houston, like an hour and a half from Austin. So, it's not like you can just fly in there and stuff, and fly people in and out. It doesn't work that way. That said, I mean, it's a beautiful campus. They have everything you could possibly imagine, top of the line stuff. They want to be so much better than they really are. And if they ever get to a point where they are 10-1 and in conversation for the playoffs, I mean, people around here will lose their minds. But right now,
They're 4-3. They're not doing that.
Yeah, the general sentiment right now is this: Jimbo's not the guy. But Kevin Sumlin won the guy. I don't know who Bear Bryant ain't coming back. I don't know who the guy would be. No idea.
All right. Missouri is still 6-1. What is going on there? And at the end of the day, it's still Georgia, Alabama. Okay. Yep. So with that, fans, when we get back, we're going to talk about some of the administrative things going on in college athletics. Be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
The high school and college academic and athletic landscape is changing. The growing number of college transfers, as well as student athletes being able to profit off the use of their name, image, and likeness, has given student athletes the freedom and power to make life-changing decisions. That is why it is important for student athletes to be properly informed throughout the decision-making process. The difference between success and failure is often measured not by yards, but by inches, and even the most successful coaches and players use outside independent consultants to help improve their decision-making, which improves their results. That is what the CKA Save Project would like to do for student athletes across the country, improve their academic and athletic results. Our academic and athletic consulting services assist student athletes with the college decision-making process. The CKA team of former high school and college coaches can provide student athletes an independent assessment of their academic and athletic skills to assist student athletes in their college decision-making process. Let the CKA team evaluate your academic and athletic ability to assist you in finding the right fit for your academic and athletic career. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast and segment 2. Glad I have my administrator with me because money is an incredible motivator, Robert. The University of Washington filed a motion to intervene with the lawsuit filed against the Pac-12 by Washington State and Oregon. If granted, the motion would pave the way for Washington to file a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, which neither the school nor the 9 other department schools currently has the authority to have. Robert, you're very famous of saying, if somebody gives you your keys, they take them. These schools chose, wide-eyed and willing, to leave the Pac-12. Washington State and Oregon State are using what's in the Pac-12 rules to maintain the Pac-12 because the NCAA says you have 2 years to get to 8. So they got 2 years to get to 8. They got contracts. They got all of these things. The 10 departing schools are challenging the grounds, and they're using Washington to kind of make that happen. But I always thought it was about the student athletes, right? What are your thoughts on this, Robert?
Well, clearly it's not about the student athletes, because if it were about the student athletes, you wouldn't agree to have your volleyball team be gone from school for a week to go play volleyball I've already said this, at Rutgers in Maryland. And I'm actually interested to see how this is going to turn out, because I mean, essentially what you're talking about is a breach of contract.
Mm-hmm.
And financially, how much is that worth? Because I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think Washington State and Oregon State are, I don't think they really think that the courts are going to make all of the, no, you have to stay in the Pac-12. You can't leave. I don't think they're going to make them do that.
No.
But I could see them say, in order for you to leave, you have damaged them financially. So we're going to have to put a number on that.
And let me help clarify
Which
this.
may be, I mean, that actually may be the outcome that they're looking for anyway, because both of them have some pretty significant financial implications of the Pac-12 falling by the wayside based upon renovations that they did of their facilities to ensure that they were of Pac-12 quality.
So Washington State and Oregon State have contended that each of the 10 departing schools announcing that they were leaving to move to a new conference qualifies as a notification to withdraw from the Pac-12, which would, per conference bylaws, remove their voting power. And that precedent was set when USC and UCLA no longer had voting power when they announced they were joining the Big Ten. So, as a famous college basketball coach once told me as a young coach, you have to know the rules to break them. So, they're not doing anything that the other schools haven't already done when USC and UCLA decided to leave. So, my social studies instincts say discovery is not fun. And if somebody was lazy in their emails and they said something wrong, these are state institutions, and public disclosure acts and public information acts are going to come out. So they're using Washington to try to hold this thing up. And good luck with that, because the temporary restraining order was granted, and we'll be finding out in early to mid-November if this is going to work out for them or not. So we'll stay tuned. So moving forward, Robert, now they want to get involved. College sports leaders are considering making changes to current NCAA guidelines, which will allow schools to get significantly more involved in helping student athletes make money from endorsement deals. An NCAA subcommittee in charge of examining the rules that dictate how athletes use their name, image, and likeness rights to make money will meet this coming week to discuss several proposed changes. The proposed changes are as follows, sir. Proactively assist in the development of NIL activity, provide services such as tax preparation and contract review, provide access to equipment such as cameras, podcast studios for NIL activity, and communicate with school sponsors about NIL opportunities for athletes, including securing specific opportunities. Robert, what are we doing here, man? Why isn't this already happening? What are your thoughts, sir?
When you open the box, this is what happens, right? It makes sense for schools to at least provide guidance and resources to help their students be successful, right? I mean, isn't that what you try to do academically? Help them make good academic decisions. Maybe helping kids learn to make good financial decisions for their future based upon NIL. Maybe that's actually a good thing that's going to come out of this. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm skeptical of the NCAA. I think everyone should be skeptical of the NCAA given the history. And the other piece of it is, okay, so the NCAA is going to make these rules. Who's going to enforce them?
Yes. Who's going to enforce them? Well played, well said. All right. High school student athletes and coaches and counselors and parents, listen up. There is a FAFSA update. The federal government is overhauling the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA form, as a part of a project known as FAFSA Simplification which is delaying this year's opening from October 1st to sometime in December. Published reports have said that it's important for student athletes to get their financial houses in order with their parents and financial caregivers. Financial aid administrators, administrative officers, high school counselors are prepping for what is going to be called a, quote, chaotic rollout. The question is, will this plan be accurate? Student loan situations have not gone smoothly. This is going to be interesting. So again, at this stage in the game, please just be aware. Talk to your local school officials, your counselors, your registrars, and gain as much information. We just want it to be used as a public service announcement because this is not going to be fun. And I'm sure this is one of the situations where you're glad you're not in the building right now, Rob. Finally, this week.
I remember, I can tell you, I remember it was always a struggle for us because this was one of the things with our high school kids is we had FAFSA nights, we had advisement with seniors where we sat down with families and worked on FAFSA to try and just, they said, well, we don't know if we're going to college. That's okay. Just fill out the form.
Just fill out the form.
Just fill out the form. Because that way, if you do decide that's what you want to do, you're ready.
You're right.
And I'll be interested to see what comes of this. But yes, I'm glad I'm not in a building to have to deal with it.
Yes. Again, talk to your local school counselors, registrars, and administrators. Pay attention, folks. Finally, this week, I am a witness. NCAA President Charlie Baker and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petty are scheduled to testify at a Senate hearing about the future of college sports next week. Baker and many other college sports administrators have asked Congress to write new federal laws that will allow the NCAA to regulate how athletes make money and protect the association from what has been a steady and successful onslaught of legal challenges. This is not good for the NCAA, and Baker is a former governor of Massachusetts. He's made several trips to Washington, D.C. to lobby, but this is the first time he is going to testify in a public hearing in front of Congress. Take good notes, sir, and prepare. So Petty is also taking over as the new commissioner of Big Ten, and he will be testifying for the first time in his role. Robert, any final thoughts about Charlie Baker and friends coming to testify in front of Congress about the NCAA?
I think given our current political climate and what's going on, this is not going to be real high on Congress's list of things to do.
Well said, sir. And when we get back in segment 3, we'll talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast in segment 3. Talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. So my top 5, Georgia is number 1. Michigan and Ohio State are numbers 2 and 3. And after one team loses, they're kicked out, and we're not talking about them anymore. Okay, so Ohio State playing Penn State's a big deal because if Ohio State beats Penn State, I'm making them 2 and Michigan 3 because that's just kind of how it works. And then I'm making Florida State 3 the following week. Okay, because Florida State's on fire. So I got Florida State at 4, and Air Force is my best group of 5 team. I can put them back in there now. They're 5 on the outside looking in. Oklahoma, Washington, and James Madison for the group of 5 spot. Okay. And again, our focus is just college football playoffs. That's it. Season long bets. Clemson is 4-2. Got them over 9.5. They have to win out. Next loss, I'm done. Tulane is over 9. They're 5-1. So we're halfway there. Robert, Maryland is over 7.5, and they're 5-2, 2 straight losses. And I know you're not a fan based on the time at New Mexico, and you're probably saying I told you so. But
not a Locks fan, but you know what? He has done a good job with that program. I don't know if he can make it. I don't know if he can get it any further along than what he has, but he has done a good job with that program.
Yeah, and that was this made-up award I saw this week that he was the half-year coach of the year in the Big Ten. When did we start doing those awards? I don't. All right, Texas over 9.5. They're 5-1, and again, the booking is Texas wins all the way out. Oklahoma wins all the way out. The Big 12 championship, Texas beats Oklahoma. And then based on the strength of wins, Alabama is going to be the one that, that's going to carry you through. But we ain't there yet. Okay. Troy over 8, and they already got 5 wins. Troy might be my first one that takes me to the pay window. Notre Dame over 8.5. They're 6-2 now. Now, if you told me they were 6-2, I would take it. So I don't care how they got there. They need to win 3 more. So let's make that happen. Go Irish. Utah over 8.5. They're 5-1, and Tennessee over 9. They're 5-1. So last week I was 2-3. This week I'm 2-3. Let me go through. This is tough, man. I'm trying to get to that 3 wins. So my game of the week was UNC -3 over Miami. They took care of business. UNC, if you've ever gone to Keene Stadium, is beautiful. It's all blue. It's got the Carolina blue and the sky and all of that. And they showed out and they got their win. Over under Iowa under 34.5. And I think that might be the new weekly bet, Robert, because of you, I took that bet. And won clean. That was an ugly game between them and Wisconsin. There was no fun in that game. That was not a fun game to watch, and I'm sure the ratings reflect that.
No.
All right, the 2 play was Rutgers -5.5 and Ohio State over 51.5. Both of them let me down. Rutgers, that was your first taste in the spotlight. You didn't do well. I don't know if I'm going to give you a second shot at the apple, maybe. My 3 play was Maryland, Wisconsin, and Air Force. Maryland laid an egg. Wisconsin laid an egg, and Air Force handled its business. And my upset, based on Robert, was USC over Notre Dame, and that didn't work out for me. So, moving forward, Week 8 notable games. A lot of good games. JMU is traveling to Marshall on Thursday. Check that game out again. That's going to be a good one. Penn State, Ohio State is the game of the week. Big football Saturday or whatever. I'm checking out Rutgers in Indiana because Rutgers is 5-2. They're traveling to Indiana, and that should be a winnable road game. We'll see what happens. Air Force is playing Navy. They're coming to town. I would love to go to that. I'm just very busy. And Air Force is rocking it. Duke is playing at Florida State, but their quarterback is coming off an ankle injury. I don't even know if he's going to play. Utah is playing USC, Robert. Utah could put USC on a 2-game losing streak, and I've never been overly Lincoln Riley. So let's see what happens. Tennessee's playing Alabama. Let's see what happens with that. Can Tennessee put Alabama out? That's going to be a good one. South Carolina's playing Missouri. Again, Missouri's got 1 loss. I'm still on that. So I'm kind of watching them now and see what South Carolina can do. North Texas is taking on Tulane, and North Texas is pretty good. It's going to be a battle, Tulane. Toledo versus Miami of Ohio. That is the game of the week in Maction. Ole Miss against Auburn because Ole Miss is still hanging around. Clemson against Miami. So, Robert, Clemson and Miami both probably will not be ranked going into this game. Could you imagine that Clemson and Miami wouldn't be ranked?
No. I would have said, I mean, one of the two at least. I would have thought Clemson would be ranked, but
this is like bizarro world.
hey, and I mean, you have Dabo, who is anti-NIL, and you have Miami making extremely poor decisions. So between the two, this is where you wind up, right?
Yeah. All right. In a Big 12 matchup, Robert, UCF travels to Norman, Oklahoma. Let's hang on to Sioux.
That doesn't even sound right.
Okay. Washington State against Oregon. Give me 2 losses, Washington State. Go ahead, go get them. So anyway, any particular game next week you are looking forward to, sir?
Those are some good games. I mean, this is Penn State shot. It's Penn State shot. I don't think Duke can beat Florida State. I think even if their quarterback's healthy, I'm not sure they could beat Florida State. I can't imagine Caleb Williams will play that badly 2 weeks in a row. I don't think USC's defense can keep Utah out of the end zone. So that might actually, I don't know what the number is on that game, but that might be an interesting game to go over on. And Tennessee and Alabama.
3:30 slot, baby.
It's a very similar game to Penn State, Ohio State. You wanna be that guy, Tennessee? Show us. It's isn't that the show me state?
I know Tennessee is the volunteer state.
The volunteer state.
Missouri is the show me state.
That's right. Well, and they're showing out, aren't they?
Yes, they are. So let's see if they'll beat South Carolina, and let's see if Tennessee can beat Alabama. That again, good slate of games this coming week.
Good games. Good games.
All right, fans. On behalf of our favorite administrator, Robert Abney, I'm Dr. Keith Adams, saying thank you for listening and/or watching the iCoaches podcast. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at iCoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.